Hey everyone, if you haven't used them before, Channel Strip plugins generally have all of the tools you need to be able to perform a lot of the basic functions within any track or source that you have. Typically on a channel strip, you'll have an input section, an EQ section, and a compression section. Channel Strip plugins can be a really fast and convenient way to do a bunch of things with just one instance. Today, we're going to be checking out an update or the Mark II of the Filk channel from Kive Audio, and I probably said that wrong. Let's check it out and let's dive into the DAW. Okay, so here we are. We're looking at the Filkchannel Strip Mark II. This is an update from one of the earliest Kive plugins, and we love checking out the stuff from Kive. I have a whole bunch of other things from them, so there will be a button and some links down in the description. Right now, we're going to check out some of the updates to the Mark II version of one of their original plugins. With these updates, you're going to get a few things. Obviously, it's going to be more compatible with more systems. Sure, we get that with every update, but in this, we now have more modules. And let's just kind of take a look at everything real fast. And if you want to jump ahead to the audio examples, use the chapters. For now, let's just take a quick look. So in its default configuration, or the configuration I have right now, you have your pre section, which is this one on the left. You have a compression section, which is the one I currently have in the middle, and you have an EQ section. In the updated version, or the Mark II, we actually now have variants or options within these different parameters. So let's start with our preamp section. Right now we're on the pre version 2. If we click on the name down on bottom, we can swap this for pre 1. And now we have different flavors of saturation or preamp saturation. And each one also has two different types. You can see in the top right corner, S1, S2, these are two different saturation styles. So with pre 1, you have two different kinds, and pre 2, you have two other. In my setup, I have it followed up by the compressor, and once again, just click down here on bottom, and now you can see there are two different compression styles in the one plugin. Currently, I'm on compressor 2, but if we flip this over, this is compressor 1, and the controls, they will reset back to 0 if you haven't dialed anything in, but if I go back to version 2, everything I've dialed in holds true. So you can go back and forth and see which one you like better without losing your settings. And of course, following this up with EQ, and we now have 3 options of EQ. Currently, I'm on EQ version 2. Here's number 1 from the original, and now there's number 3 if you're looking for something really simple and basic. Another cool thing with the update is being able to reorder however you want just by dragging the modules around. So maybe I don't want my preamp first. I want to compress before I hit the preamp. I want a nice solid level. Well, I'm just going to click and drag my preamp and reorder everything. And now it's going to go from left to right, compressor first, then my preamp, then the EQ. Want to change it again? Sure, let's put the EQ first, and then we'll put the preamp in and the compressor last. And you can just slide these all around to whatever orientation or order you need. And now let's go over the stuff that we see in a lot of Kive Audio plugins. Input meter on the left, output meter on the right. Along top, you have your preset browser and your navigation button through those presets. Input and output of overall, so drive it a little bit harder on the input and maybe back that off on the output if you need to, or vice versa, whatever you need. Built-in oversampling and the A/B button, so you can have even more options as you're going through trying to dial in sounds. Undo and redo, here's your settings, and really that's it. So we've gone over all of the controls, and now let's get into how this thing sounds. I found that this is actually really good on guitars, and I also threw this on the lead vocal for the song we're working on. The song we're working on is called All Hands Lost. Right now, I'm actually going to turn off my instances of Filkchannel on the channels you are going to hear. And yes, I do have other processing going on, but you'll hear what Filkchannel is doing. So first, let's get into our guitar examples. And I'm going to play everything in the mix. Right now, I have Filkchannel in bypass, and after a couple bars, I'm just going to activate it. And you guys should hear the guitar change. I have also level matched these, so it's not going to be this thing is louder. It's that I'm using the compression and EQ to make space for them. And so even though it might seem louder, it's just in its home. Take a listen. So I have different things happening on both my left and right guitars. Right now, I'm just going to open them both up and show you what's going on. So here is my left guitar and its order, and here is my right guitar. I copied the settings over when I dialed in one guitar, and then I started working on the other and creating it itself. So you'll probably see that the compressor is doing the exact same thing on the left and right channels, but you can see where the differences are clearly. I'm using a different preamp section and I'm using a different EQ section to get different kinds of sounds. So let's just solo those out, and I'll start it in bypass and then just open it up. And then we'll switch over and we'll listen to just the right channel. And then once again, we'll do both left and right, and you'll be able to hear both of them on or off. But to do that, I'm just gonna have to move these real fast. So there we go. That is the Filk channel on guitars. Now let's jump over to our vocals. And you can see I have a very different setup for the vocals. I wanted to compress first and then go to EQ. And then I wanted to add in a little bit of saturation towards the end of the chain. And I didn't say this earlier, but you can turn any single module on or off. You can click on top here at the LED, or down on bottom there is a power button as well. So now let's take a listen to the vocals with Filk channel off, and then we'll drop it in after a couple bars.
The sweet sensations that come along with your slow burn.
Very quickly and easily, because I was able to reorder everything, I would put the compressor first. And I did that on purpose because I wanted a consistent vocal. So I'm gonna compress first. And I chose to go a little heavier with my compression, but I do have a lower ratio. It's something you can kind of play around with. If you're doing heavier or more gain reduction, maybe you could just drop down the ratio so it doesn't sound as heavy. You could also go with a higher ratio and not nearly as much gain reduction. They offer different sounds. Play around with it. This is just what I landed on for this demo. Your mileage may vary. Let's take another listen, and then we'll go in and we'll start changing some of this stuff up. First thing I want to do, try the different preamp. Let's take a listen.
I wanted more than I could ever think to return. The sweet sensations that come along with your slow burn. I wanted more than I could ever think to return. The sweet sensations that come along with your slow burn. I wanted more than I could ever think to return. The sweet sensations that come along with your slow burn.
So it's really cool. There's already a bunch of options we have in here. Yes, between the two different pre-sections, we already have different saturation, but because of the saturation type, we now have twice the number. And you heard in both the mix and in solo, we have lots of options, and they all have different characteristics. Some are a little lower in their saturation with a little bit more high-end fizzle. Some are mid-range forward. Some are a little scooped. So you have a lot of flexibility with the preamp section, and that goes across the compressor and the equalizer sections as well. So for our last quick demo, we're just going to play that same section again with everything bypassed on the guitars and vocals, and then we'll drop it in a couple bars later.
I wanted more than I could ever think to return. The sweet sensations that come along with your slow burn.
If you want to pick up your own copy of the Filkchannel Mark II or any plugin from Kive Audio, use the description down below, and a little bit will come back to help support the channel. Thanks so much in doing that. And have fun mixing. Use this, manipulate your things, try different options, and see how it suits your song. Happy mixing, and I'll see you next time.